Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Hey guys, I'm Andrew Lees and I've got Clint McPherson here, and we're going to coming to you from That Entrepreneur Life. This is episode 3.
Yeah, man. 3.
We made it.
Exactly.
1, 2, 3.
No dos tres.
Yeah.
And we got it. So my thing is today, what we want to hit everybody with on today's episode is basically expectation management.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? Because
wow, it's critical.
It's very critical. I mean, after our first 2 episodes, this is something that I really believe in, and something we were discussing offline too, that expectation management with not only one, yourself as an entrepreneur, but 2, with actual clients. That's even a bigger hurdle. And so that's what we want to dig in today, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we were just talking offline a little bit about this, and we both got pretty deep into a couple of situations that we're both dealing with. So we're like, all right, let's hit record and start talking about it, because it's, it's really, really important to manage the expectation. When you're talking about clients, for sure, you have to make sure that you all are on the same page about what you are delivering to them, whether it's a product or a service. Is it a one-time thing? Is it an ongoing thing? Are they paying a subscription for it? And do they expect some level of customer service on an ongoing basis? And they should know exactly what you're delivering to them, and you should communicate that clearly right from the beginning. And I always think it's good to err on the side of under-promising and over-delivering. So, you say, you definitely, you have to strike a balance of, you want to get more clients, but you don't want to do that at the sake of giving up all, a whole bunch of your time, or, a bunch of free stuff, a bunch of perks that is going to end up, biting you in the butt down the road. You want to make sure that it's, that they have a really reasonable understanding and expectation of what they're getting. And then if you can do any better for them, than what you're saying you'll deliver, and it's efficient for you to do that, by all means, go for it. That's awesome. They should just be that much more, impressed and excited to continue to do business with you.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think like you said, being clear, concise, upfront, and letting them know, there's a scope of work at hand, right? So if a client comes to me and asks for a website design, or they come and ask me, to manage their social media account, or to set up a pay-per-click campaign for them, when you invoice them, or when you have these conversations with it should be in black and white, right? To where this is what you're going to get for this price. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of them, when you start over delivering to a certain extent, because I always try to over deliver, I always try to add that additional value, that when they think about my company, they're like, man, he went above and beyond, what he said he was going to do. But then that can come and bite you in the butt a lot, because, for instance, if you do something on a website, throwing one of the recent things I've went through is I did a website for a client, and then I noticed a problem on something else, right? On their Google My Business. I brought it up to them. I cleared it up. And then it was one of those things that, it was an expectation, because I did that one small thing for them, that it turned into an expectation of me continuing to do stuff for free on a side to them. And I'm like, really, dude? At the end of the day, we all run businesses, and we always try to add value. And I don't try to nickel and dime any of my clients. It's like, what you're going to get typically when you pay me, right? It's going to be there. And if any scope creep comes, and if I'm going to charge you for anything, I'm not just going to go do it and then you're going to receive a bill.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you know, hey, it's going to cost this much to do A, B, and C that you just requested because one, it's not within my 30-day window or whatever it is that we came up with initially, and it's actually outside of the scope of work. So setting those expectations at the beginning is very important, where I failed early on in my business of not doing that, right? Of having a project that a client said, I want A, B, and C done, and then I do A, B, and C, but then I add, D, E, and F, just because. And then now it's like, okay, can you also do this? And I'm like, okay, I'll do that too, right? I'm currently working in it. I'll go ahead and add that while I'm doing it. And then it was like, oh, I noticed this. Can you also add this? Because it'd be good to tie that in. And not thinking about like, I should be charging additional because this is outside of the scope of work.
Yeah.
And then you get along with it. And now you have a jumbled mess. Like you just completed A, B, and C, but you went all the way to letter Z for free along the way. And now from then on, you just set expectations from that client that they're just going to keep taking as much as they can. And then it turns into frustration on their end by saying, you didn't charge me to do that last time, or this and that. You're like, come
used
on.
to it. And then,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. I understand. I understand how that can happen. And so, yeah, it's why it's so important to clearly set the expectations from the beginning. And you and I both have service-based businesses. So with us, with a service-based business, you're going to be spending some time with people. So it's not like I'm just going to sell you a product. You get what you get. And then if you don't like it, return it. If you, whatever,
Exactly.
you're really, you're working through a process with people. And so you have to have an agreement, set up, at least to just, not to say that anybody's, going to court over anything. Hopefully that, never happens, but at least to just, it's a document that has, this is what I'm going to deliver to you. This is the project. This is what I'm going to deliver. And this is what I expect from you. And part of it, it's not all about just payment. Some of it is communication.
Yeah.
A lot of it is communication too. And I always tell my clients that, the better that they can communicate with me, or, the more good, healthy communication we have together, the more successful a project's going to be. Because
without a doubt.
if they're dragging their feet getting back to me about something, then it's just going to, it's going to drag things out. I never thought that could be, when I started my business, I thought that's never going to be an issue. People are going to get right back to me. Well, I had one project where, I charge a certain way, and I don't charge the final like 25% of my fee, my project fee, until the project is completed. I never expected anybody to drag their feet so long that I would get paid for a really long time. But that happened with a project. And it's really painful because I tried to, push the project along as fast as I could, as efficiently as I could. They wanted a solution, they wanted a particular solution. I designed it for them. They didn't like that. We went back and forth for like 8 months, and then they said, "Oh, we wanted the thing that you said in the beginning." Like that was, and it was so frustrating because I was trying to tell them the whole time, it's not really what they wanted, wasn't reasonable, and it wasn't going to work. And I ended up doing all this extra time, and it dragged the whole project out and dragged me getting paid out. And they were frustrated. I was frustrated. So yeah, it's just, you got to set expectations from the beginning. And I did have to be we had an agreement. I had to be pretty strict about it, and you just have to stick to that. So
yeah, I agree, man. When you look at it, and again, communication is key, right? Communication is key to, one, for that expectation management, and two, to just continue to communicate, because I've been in the same situation where a project, just a simple website should not take a long time to build, right? Mm-hmm. Especially small websites. Last year, for instance, in 2019, I had a project that, I was okay with taking. It was a small website project. I try to steer away from websites if I can, right? Because again, the money's only there for a short period of time. You want the recurring revenue. Mm-hmm. And unless the client signs up for a monthly maintenance package, you're not getting that recurring revenue. It's a one and done type thing if you do it right.
Right.
And so, yeah, you might have to make some edits here and there, but it's few and far between. So that's not really where the money's at. So, but I took it, right? And so started doing it, and everything was just predicated on a video being done, right? Like already, well, how I do it is I receive 50% of payment up front, so their skin is in the game, so they're committed, right? And once they do that, then my process starts of saying, okay, I need this, this, and that, right? I've already gave them a client onboarding checklist, something they know, like, here, I need this filled out first. Once I get all this information, I can send you over the estimate, quote, invoice, whatever stage we're at. And then that 50% payment comes, and then the process starts moving, right? 50% upon completion. So as long as they're happy with the product, I don't need to make any changes. We're good, right?
Yeah.
But I received 50% of the payment. I did their whole entire website. All I had to do was add a video that they said they were going to get done in a week, right? The video never happened. Right. The video kept drawing out, and they didn't, and they withdrew payment until that video was complete, and it took them damn near 7 months. So on a simple website that was only like 5-6 pages, man, I committed all this time to doing this, and I added additional stuff for them because I'm like, oh, this video is gonna get made. No, basically it was like I kept reaching out to them. Communication wasn't there. They were ignoring me. And it wasn't like I wasn't pestering them and saying, what the hell? Like, every day I was emailing you. It was like, okay, I would just check in once a week because you told me the video was going to be done in a week. And typically I would wait till the end of the week, right? Or midweek and say, hey, just wanted to follow up to check the status of the video. And again, the communication wasn't there. Right. So, but the expectation, my thing is like, look, if this process goes over a certain period of time, right, I need to let the client know, like, I'm going to have to receive payment. Yeah. And I will upload your video after, even after you paid me, the project's complete. I'm not wiping my hands of your project because I'm still obligated to add a video because it's in black and white to your website, right? Yeah. And so that's my whole, like, guy, you can't just pocket, like, I earned the money already. Right. I put, I was digging the ditch. Right. I was doing the work. I was muddy, right? And like, I'm ready to get paid. I got to go take a shower, bro. Game's over. I'm finished with the job. Right? Like, outside of, hey, I got to add a simple video. I already had the section laid out for it, right? Right. It's all good. Give me the information I need and let's move on. But again, the expectations, on my end, I should have been more forceful with it and saying, look, something has to give eventually. But I didn't set that expectation, so they took advantage of the situation. And what you do have a lot of times, if you're not clear about it, no matter what service, no matter what business you own, clients are going to take advantage of it. I mean, that's just simple nature of the beast, and I just think if they have simple ethics and morals that, like, you would understand, like, this is not the right thing to do, but they do it, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If they can, they will. Yeah. And I mean, that's a tricky situation because you've already done the work, so you definitely need to get compensated for that. Right. And if it takes them, a while to finish up whatever they needed, then that's okay. But it's so important that your customers know what they're getting, know what know what the process is, and the expectations. I think we talked about communication. I think expectations go hand in hand with communication. So if you're communicating what those expectations are in the beginning, that's huge. And as you go, if you have really good communication with your customer, everything's should go pretty smooth, but definitely having like a nonverbal agreement and understanding is definitely very important. I mean, I have an agreement with my projects, and every I don't know, every 5 to 10 projects, I probably add something to it because I'm like, oh, I didn't even think that could happen.
Yeah.
You know,
because it just did.
it just did, and it's and
Right.
I just add that in just to be super clear. Like let's make sure we're all on the same page and we both sign it and they know what they're getting themselves into. And it goes the other way too. I mean, I think it's important for clients and for customers to hold, or as a business owner to be held accountable for what we're doing too.
Right.
So
without a doubt.
So it's great because those agreements help to define that.
Yeah.
And they make sure, if I ever question, did I really say I would do that? I just go back to the agreement. I'm like, oh yeah, I did say that. I'm going to get it done. Or no, I didn't. I can definitely do it. But now I have to go back and say, hey, that was, that was out of scope. Right. I can definitely do it, but I'll just have to bill that as a separate task. And it's no problem. I just wanted to let you know. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all about getting what you deserve at the end of the day, right? As an entrepreneur, we can cut ourselves short to a lot of things, right? Doing a lot of free things, or getting to that mindset of adding additional value, but you're adding that value at the detriment of what you have going on outside of this current project, right?
Yeah.
You start doing that, and again, they start realizing, oh man, I can ask him for this too. It's something small. I'm sure he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And then they get in a habit, and it just creates a bad habit. And then it starts creating undue stress sometimes for you. You're like, I want to charge them, but I shouldn't. And dude, I'm telling you, I was horrible at that when I first started my agency, right? I get in, I just wanted to work for somebody. Like I just wanted my first client. Right. And then it was like, okay, I got my first client, but then I was like, okay, I need 5 more. That was easy. Let me do this. But it was never setting expectations for anybody along the way. It was just like, oh, you need me to do this? I'll do it. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'll just do this too. You're paying me set amount. I'll just throw this in and do it. But it was like, realistically, my wife's like, oh, so what are you doing? We sat down one time. She said, what are you doing for A, B, and C, my clients, right? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing this and this. She was like, what are you charging them? I was like, I'm just charging them a flat fee of this, right? Which didn't make any sense. Yeah. But to me, because I had a client, I'm saying, like, dude, I'm on. Yeah. I'm cruising on my ship now. Like, dude, we're about to take it to the promised land. Like, we've arrived, right? And you're like, no, you have. My wife looked at me like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you got to break it out, and if this is going to take you so long to do it, think about it. I'm huge. I don't like the hourly thing, man. Because it's like, I like to know a client's budget just for the simple fact that it helps me paint a picture, right? Like when I put a digital marketing package together and you need me to do something specific, I'm not always going to tap out your budget, right? If you say I have $5,000 to do this, to build this out and build this out, I'm going to try to see how I can do it as efficiently as possible to, one, save you money, but deliver a good product at the end, right? Yeah,
and maybe have a little wiggle room too.
Exactly.
Because inevitably things do take longer than you expect. Yeah,
no, without a doubt, because you run into undue things that one, it might be something new, right? And so again, like along the process, you're like, I didn't know that can happen. Yeah, but it happened, right? And so you take a mental note, or you like have to add that later on, but you just got to correct that at the time. And then it's just like looking at it, it's very frustrating because I've cut myself short on a lot of things, right? My wife's like, you got to get paid what you're worth, and you're not, you're doing all of this and like, you're not bringing anything. And, like my first year was like, just again, it was a learning experience. And then there was a lot of red flags that I would just like bypass and just like, like if I really sat there and thought about it, it was like, you start looking down the list and like, I probably should have never done business with this person because, and I mean, you can list all the way down to the letter Z, right? But you were like money, right? Yep. And so my mind is like, I see green. I don't care about all the red that, I'm potentially going to run into. And then you get into it and it's a living nightmare. Yeah. And I mean, I fought that battle with a customer one time and it was just like, it really became almost unhealthy. Because I was like, every day I was thinking about it. Yeah, and it was like stressing about it. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? I just created a monster, right? And then it's like, how do you get out of that? But one, I take 100% responsibility for what I had control over now, right? Like I look back on it and I have to take 100% responsibility for me screwing that up because I created that atmosphere, right? I allowed all that to happen to create the crazy shit that I went through.
Yeah.
It was like, what is going on? What did I do? How can I get out of this? And I can't.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, geez, timeout. There's no timeouts. Or like you can't, like in a game, you can, you know, playing football, you have 3 timeouts a half. You can call timeout and like reset.
Yeah.
There was no timeouts I can call, right? It was just trying to figure out how to get around this, you know, again, I was sleeping in a bed that I made. So it was like I had to figure out a way to get out of that, and it was like
and just get through it and get
right,
get finished
and
with
then
it.
wipe my hands clean of it, and then say, look, red flags are a good thing to look at and say, hey, hell no, not doing that, not touching that with a stick, not even if you asked me and said I have $1 million, I'm good, man. I'll pass. Too many red flags for me to even want to be involved with. So.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. The red flags are very important to take note of and to pay attention to.
Yes.
Because in the beginning you're just kind of like, whatever, I just need business, and there is some of that. You know, there's definitely probably going to take some business in the beginning, and this is strictly talking about a service-based business. Going to be taking on some business in the beginning where it might not be ideal. But you got to get started somewhere, and you'll learn. You know, like the thing that you thought might not have been so ideal is fine, and it's not a big deal. But like you definitely, when you see the red flags, you have to learn to identify them and learn to you know, the best you can, not take those projects, not take that work, because it's going to distract you from the core of your business, from the things that you do really well. And the things that you do efficiently. I mean, I've had clients where, from you know, doing product development for them, it was effortless. It was like, wow, I can't believe that happened almost. You know, like I believe in my ability to develop products, but I was, you know, we got to the end of it, everything, you know, payment was perfect, customers' expectations were perfect. We needed to change a couple things, but no big deal. And we did that. And, you know, the customer understood the process. And then, you know, we made prototypes and, you know, and they came out really well. We had to, again, make a few changes because nothing comes out perfect in the beginning, but it's just like, it was such a smooth process and it went exactly the way that it should. You know, even with the imperfections of it. And then there's you know, and then that's amazing. And those are the clients that you just want. You're like, that's the ideal customer. Exactly. And that's one thing you got to figure out early on in business is what's your ideal customer and how do you find more of them? And the ones that throw up red flags that are really difficult, they might have money. They might be able to make money from them, but they might be such a distraction from the more efficient, you know, business. That's the name of the game. You wanna grow and scale. It's got to be efficient. You know, it can't be. You can't just take work for the sake of work. I mean, I've turned down a couple of big projects where I wasn't comfortable with the way, with the expectations that were there from the customer. And, you know, I wasn't sure if what needed to be designed could be how easy it was going to be to design. And he was kind of like, no, let's just do it and it'll be fine. Cool. But then what happens if it's not? And I don't know if I want to be at that point with I don't want to be at that point with some people, because some people, you know, get there and they're like, you know, they handle it really well, and then other people just freak out. And you know, and so
it's not good for anybody
then. Then it's not good. So it's really important to see those red flags for sure.
Man. And I knew, like, again, it's something, right, like I've been more cognizant of over the last several years since that time, right? Because it's something you start paying attention. You get burned, or those red flags burn you one time. You're like, nah, bro. Like, I don't even care. Like, I'm not even touching that. Like, not coming near it. So it's like you have to, again, try to find that ideal customer, but you also have to know what questions to ask, right?
Yeah.
Really try to, like, okay, spend a little bit of time with them, get to know what their, vision is, what they want, what are they trying to achieve from this, and see if that vision aligns with you, because not everybody you come across just because they have money is somebody that you're going to want to work with.
Yeah.
And somebody that, if they're going to slow your progress from going to where you want to go, then you got to look at it. And sometimes it's better to just say, it's just not the right fit. I mean, and there's a lot of customers out there that I look at and I've turned away recently to where it's just like, it doesn't excite me, right? It's not the right fit. And I could go down that rabbit hole with you and, get some money from you, but then it's just, I don't think it's going to do any of us any good at the end of the day, because one, I'm not excited about it. Two, I really don't understand where you're trying to go with this. And then three, it's just like, again, those red flags, there are red flags that I see right now that I'm just not going to compromise on. Right.
Yeah.
And then having that already in your mind and knowing that there's certain things, whether it's through ethics and morals that you have in place that, like, I'm just not going to go there or allow myself to get there.
Yeah.
To even be at a bad place, because I remember, man, it was like several months of like just undue stress to where it was, I was taking stuff out on my family, I was never happy and content because I had that black cloud just lingering over my head, right? It was like I was in a thunderstorm that I couldn't get out of.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, when is this nightmare going to stop? And luckily it just went away on its own, but because I basically stopped focusing on it, right?
Yeah.
And I think when the more you allow yourself to get consumed over things, again, that you don't have control over, again, I created it. But it's like, once I stopped focusing solely on that and I stopped like talking about it, and this is like the first time I'm talking about it since like a few years now, but it's something that I allowed myself to stop thinking about. And once you do that, like the weight was lifted off my shoulders, man. And I felt like, dude, I don't have that purple elephant just on my back, just hugging me to where like, I can't get up. Like, get off, man.
Yeah.
Like, move.
Yeah.
But now again, man, I was like,
else,
it was positivity. And I was just thinking, and it was like, it worked itself out. I mean, I was like, whoever did it, thank you. Right. Like, I'm just glad. I mean, however the universe let that happen and like go away. I'm so glad right now, because now I'm not in a negative space. Now and again, it was something that I was still able to grow my business slowly, but that slowed me down, man. Like the momentum was gone. Yeah. Like lost, like completely. And so I was still like making headway, but I was like, that year, again, it was my first year, and it was just like, I was not where I wanted to be. And ever since then, I've always committed myself to like, one, setting the expectations, communicating with the client, and also looking at those red flags and just saying, look, no matter what, I can't allow myself to go there. As much as enticing as your offer is right now, there's just going to be too many problems, right? And you don't have to tell them that way, but to me, in my mind, it's like, your offer's enticing. I appreciate it. Thanks for thinking about me, but it's just not the right fit. Just moving on from that and not allowing yourself to be tricked. And saying, bro, you got money? Let's do it, right? That's just not the right mindset you have to go with, right?
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, and even just knowing how, I mean, maybe you could take on a similar project, but in the future, but make sure that, maybe from a different, it sounds, and a lot of it does come down to the relationship between, and the communication between the business or yourself and your client. So my guess is that a lot of the issues really originated there, and probably with the client not understanding things and trying to put too much undue stress on it. I'm working through a project right now where I've got a similar thing. It was a black cloud over me for a couple weeks, sure. Like, I mean, I got kind of, like not the best email one night, and I made the mistake of kind of late at night before I went to bed reading it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I read it and I was like, oh man, well, I was gonna sleep, but now I'm not.
Yeah.
Now I'm up.
Right.
I'm sitting there in bed, just like going through all the bad things that could happen. If it didn't work out, and it happens to be a manufacturing, um, coordinating manufacturing for a client.
Okay.
And man, manufacturing is very, very difficult, and the product development process went so smooth. I had such a great experience
Yeah.
with them. I could tell that they knew what they wanted.
Right.
I could tell that they really knew what they wanted, which is a good thing. But I could tell that they were strong and kind of hard nosed, and that came out and then some in the manufacturing process. It's not something like I'm working with a factory and I'm managing it. I'm trying to coordinate it, and it's not that's a process in and of itself to get a new product from from a prototype through manufacturing. Because we had a prototype that worked perfectly.
Right.
I created the design, made the prototype. We had to tweak some things. Went through that process. Prototype worked perfectly, and it's taking a while to get through the manufacturing process. And
Mm-hmm.
some of that is me needing to communicate, to make sure that I'm communicating effectively with the factory,
Yeah.
and making sure that they understand exactly what we expect. But at the same time, I'm really managing expectations hard on with my customer now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got pretty upset about it for a while, and was like, man, how's this gonna work? And I gotta, at the end of the day, all I want to do is deliver them an amazing product.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's then what I focused on.
Exactly.
And that's when I just started focusing on it. I'm like, and they were really, really pushing things, rushing things to get done
Yeah.
super, super quickly in an unrealistic time frame. So I pushed for that, and still pushing things to be done relatively quickly. But but if you put too much stress on the whole process, you're not going to get what you want anyway.
Yeah.
So it's better to be like, hey, this takes time. You really have to trust the process, and and understand that it's, even though you think you can manufacture a product and go from prototype to full production run in a couple months. So like that's not how it works. And so yeah, I've been managing expectations on both ends, but
Yeah.
like been sleeping a lot easier now that I'm just really, really taking control of it and being like, this is what we can do.
Right.
That's it.
And knowing that.
Like that's it. This
Right.
is what it is. This is what we can do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to overpromise you. I'm
Yeah.
not going to paint you a pretty picture of how how it could be. I mean, I might say, hey, this next phase is going to take 4 weeks. Maybe we can get it done in 3, but assume that it's 4. Assume that it's 6. That
Yeah.
way we're good.
Yeah.
And since I adjusted those expectations, it's been better. So it definitely makes me reconsider that. It definitely makes me reconsider how I approach it from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But you can, sometimes you can adjust on the fly. But some things like, like it sounds like with your project, there was no hope. There was no
No,
like
man.
salvaging it. It just needed to be.
No, because it's one of those things. It's like when I read something, it's like black and white, right? There's no, confusion. And if there's confusion, I always ask the client, like, if you have any questions or if anything sticks out to you that doesn't make sense, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you try to take something that says whatever it says and you're like, well, shouldn't that be included? No, it shouldn't, because it doesn't say it.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
it's not.
Like imply a task is like black and white is what you're going to get. Right. And then if I'm building a website, okay, and imply a task, I don't have to I'm going to add your logo to the top, whatever corner, right? Because your logo is going to be on there, or add a header to it. I don't have to break it down into so fine details to where it's like, okay, we can read it. You're going to get a home tab. You're going to get a about us, whatever. Some of that stuff's implied, man,
Because at the point that you break it down so granular, you could have started the website already, right? You could have just started the work.
Exactly. But then it's just that brings too much like a checklist down, or like, okay, you missed this and missed this. And like, if I agree to do something, even if it's in a verbal conversation, I'll do it, right? Like, I'm like, okay, I remember saying that, I'll go do it, right?
Yeah.
But there are things that sometimes when we get in projects, again, like one, might not remember saying it, or two, it's not in black and white, or actually it is in black and white, but I read it wrong, and so now I got to go back and do it. There's not something to where I go back to the client and say, I never said that, right? I go read and arm myself with what I need first before I come and say, look, it's not in there, but I do remember us talking about it, so I'm going to add it, right?
Yeah.
Because I have something like it's the reputation of my own company. And if it's something very little and something like, look, they're making a big deal out of it, but it's really not a big deal because all I have to do is add this text or change an address.
Yeah.
My bad, man. Okay, sorry that, the header didn't change. Sometimes when I close out of a website, you don't always hit the update button, and you did all these changes and the update didn't happen. And you're like, dude, I know I did this. What's this client talking about? You go check and you're like, oh, no, I didn't. Forgot to hit the save button. My bad. Update. But it's just one of those things, man, is there was things that, just from the beginning, right? And there's just like, there was no understanding from the other side, right? I was understanding where they were coming from, and I understood, their angle, but it was like, but just to be honest with you, I mean, it's like, there's no gray area here. This is what it says, and this is what I did. And it was more like, no, there is a gray area, because I created a gray area, and now you have to do this gray area. And I was like,
no,
I'm not down for that, right? I'm not down for my clients telling me what my scope of work is when you've already signed off on it. There hasn't been any questions. There wasn't any modifications to it. We talked about this specifically. You agreed with it. But now, because you think it should be included, which is not on, like for instance, okay, if you have a terms and conditions page or a privacy policy, whatever, okay, I understand those need to be added to websites. But unless you tell me something specific needs to be added, I'm just not going to add, like, if you want a video added and you never told me you want a video added, and then you get mad at that because, well, I wanted my YouTube video on my website. Okay, well, it didn't say that, and we went through this process. I'll add it for you easily, no problem. But don't say that's an applied task. Right. Don't look at me and say, well, it should be in your scope of work because you know that I have a YouTube channel because you connected it to my website in my social media icons, and you should have known that. Like, what are we talking about right now? Yeah. Like, is this a website or is this like YouTube? Like, I can make your website where your videos display on your website, but we never even talked about this. Yeah. And so that was just an example like that, which wasn't the case, but just throwing out without getting into those like details of the project, because don't want to get in trouble by any means of somebody listening to it and be like, oh, he's talking about me, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's one of those. It's just one of those things, man. It happened, and like you said, once you flip your mindset, that's the huge thing. Is like that black cloud might be hanging over you for a second, but don't allow yourself to get caught up in that, because it can consume you. Yeah. Definitely, and I mean, like you said, for 2 weeks, you were consumed with that black cloud. I was consumed a lot longer. Yeah. But I allowed myself to be consumed by it. So,
right. At the end of the day, you kind of allow yourself to be, you really, if you're constantly focused on, hey, I'm just going to deliver the best product or service I possibly can, then you're good. If you kind of let that, and that's your value, and you let that guide everything, you're gonna be fine. The customer's gonna be fine. You're at least gonna get to a point where you're like, hey, I delivered as much as you wanted, or as much as we agreed upon. I don't think this is gonna work out going forward. So let's part ways or whatever after everything's been settled up to that point. so yeah, and I mean, I think we've been talking a lot about service-based businesses, but even with products, there's definitely expectations there too. I have a product-based business, and what's nice about that is there's more of a beginning and end. Like
Yeah.
with most things, there's a beginning, middle, and end. With subscription-based things, it's kind of like a beginning and a never-ending
It's
end.
just recurring.
Yeah, just recurring, but you're getting paid on a recurring basis,
Yeah.
so you're okay with doing recurring work. Um, but with a product, it's more like a beginning and an end. It's kind of nice in a way because you put a lot of work into developing that product, and you put it out there to the world to sell it, and they buy it. So you've offered it, which is the beginning, and they bought it. That's the end.
Yeah. Right.
Once you deliver it, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's really nice. I mean, but there is always some, not always, but sometimes there's customers who need a little extra help. Either they've 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 seen the product, they've but they don't fully understand it, so they need some guidance, they need some help. So there's customer service there. So you need to, within reason, like if you're selling $100 product and you spend like 10 hours of your time trying to convince that person to buy the product, well, it's not efficient. You got to figure out a different way to do that.
Yeah.
You got to either put up more information on your website, you got to, put a little tutorial video together, something. And so you definitely have to make that process efficient. And then after you've sold the product, there's sometimes customers have questions about the product, or something goes wrong, you need to fix it, you need to return it, exchange it, something like that. But it's definitely more of a clear, like, beginning, middle, and end, to where
I agree.
You sell the product, and for the most part you deliver the product and you get payment, and like that's it.
Yeah.
There's not as much gray area, but I've definitely had customers who want us to build something custom.
Yeah.
And we've done it, and bad idea. unless you're really set up, unless you really are geared to, your business is geared to do that, and that's your focus.
Yeah.
But you really have to know what your focus is too, and you just turn those. You have to be like, cool, you want to spend $1,000 or $2,000 to develop or to make like a variation on a product we already sell. Keep it.
Yeah.
It's not worth the hassle.
Exactly.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
just do what is most efficient, and define the expectations. I think that's the biggest takeaway, and define the expectations as right from the beginning, so that every customer, whether it's a product or service, they know what they're getting, and that's it.
Well, it sets the tone, right?
Yeah.
When you go in there first, whatever, if it's your first meeting or if it's an existing customer, and they know how you operate, it's just like always being clear, and setting that expectation up front is the way you do it. And ever since I've been doing that, everything has went a lot smoother, right? You'll still have a couple problems every now and then, but setting those expectations up front and saying, look, this is what I'm going to deliver. I'm not going to deliver anything more, anything less, and this is how long it's going to take. Typically, I always extend it just in case you run into a problem, but you always let them know, like, look, and you give them a heads up if something actually gets in your way from accomplishing and hitting that deadline. You'll be amazed at how accepted it is for that to happen if you talk to them and communicate. So that expectation, that communication, clears a whole bunch of mess. And it doesn't muddy the water as much as if you just, take a job on with a whole bunch of red flags and don't set any expectations, right?
Yeah, that's way worse, definitely. Because in the beginning, most people are, you might be afraid to tell them something that you think, might deter them from doing business with you or whatever. But it's so important to say it, because a lot of times they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they're
exactly.
They're fine. What are they going to say in the beginning?
Right.
They haven't paid you anything. They haven't contracted with you in any way.
Right.
You know, they're the worst they could do is say, "Ooh, okay, I don't think we should. I don't think it's going to work out for me." And honestly, if they say that, good, you know, good.
Exactly.
You're saving, you're dodging a bullet.
Yep. Help me out.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that whole process is when you look at it from, you know, when you look at it from hindsight and just take a step back, it's like you dodged a bullet, like you said. Thank you very much. High five on the way out, right? Like, you know, you might not want to show that, but man, it's just such a relief because I think things happen for a reason. We go through experiences and we experience things for a reason. And how we respond to those things is really what I take away from it. Looking at yourself, taking 100% responsibility from what you control, and what you can control is actually setting those expectations. Yeah, actually communicating with your client. Now, if they don't communicate with you, or they have any expectation management, that's on them. But you got it off your chest. You let them know ahead of time. You let them know beforehand, before the project even started. And then once they agree upon it, or once that first payment comes in and kicks me off of saying project started, let's go, then I just roll from there, man. And so since I've incorporated that, it's just been such a smoother process and not stressful at all compared to what I was doing initially.
Yeah, yeah. So that's awesome. I mean, yeah, definitely important.
Yeah, and I think, what, episode 3? That's a wrap.
I think that's a wrap, man. Yeah,
we did good.
I think we covered. Yeah, I think we covered it. Again, love to hear what you guys think. If you know you have experiences of your own that you'd like to share, I mean, we'd love to love to hear about them. And so yeah, I think that's it for that Entrepreneur Life.
Yeah, guys.
Episode 3.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we appreciate it. See ya.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.